The twin moons of Saravel were just rising over the silver towers of the royal city when the palace guards noticed movement near the outer gates. At first, they thought it was a lost traveler, but as the figure stepped into the moonlight, the older guard dropped his spear in shock. "She looks like the princess," he whispered. The younger guard narrowed his eyes. The woman walking toward the gates wore a torn travel cloak. Her boots were dusty, her face tired, but behind the dirt and scars, her features were familiar. High cheekbones, violet eyes, and silver hair tied back in a loose braid. "She's been gone for 10 years, the younger guard said. "It can't be her." But then he noticed the child holding her hand. A small boy, maybe 6 years old, stood beside her. He had brown hair, dark eyes, and pale skin unlike any Varellan child. The woman stopped just beyond the gates. "My name is Ellen," she said softly. "I am the daughter of Queen Ilaria. I've come home." The guards froze. One of them rushed to alert the palace. Inside the throne room, Queen Ilaria sat with her council. Her robes shimmered like starlight. Her crown rested heavy on her brow. She was a strong ruler, known across the systems for her wisdom and discipline. But behind her calm eyes, there was sorrow, a mother's sorrow that never faded. Years ago, her only daughter, Ellen, had vanished during a peace mission to a distant colony. The ship had been lost in a solar storm. No wreckage was found. The queen mourned in silence, never holding a funeral, always hoping. Now, a messenger ran into the chamber. "Your Majesty," he gasped, "someone stands at the gate. She says she is your daughter. She has returned with a child." The queen stood slowly. Her voice remained calm, but her hands trembled slightly. "Bring her to me," she said. Guards escorted Ellen through the long golden halls of the palace. The young boy walked beside her. Quiet but curious, he looked around at the glowing walls, the floating lanterns, the tall alien statues. It was all strange to him. When Ellen stepped into the throne room, time seemed to stop. Queen Ilaria stood, eyes fixed on the woman before her. Ellen bowed her head. "I am sorry, mother," she said. "I should have returned sooner." The queen said nothing at first. Her eyes slowly moved to the child. "Who is he?" she asked. Ellen placed a gentle hand on the boy's shoulder. "His name is Keo," she said. "He is my son. His father is human." A wave of silence passed through the room. The council members shifted uncomfortably. "A human child, in the royal line." Queen Ilaria's voice was sharp but steady. "You disappeared without a trace, and now you return with a human child. Explain." Ellen nodded. "My ship crashed on a planet called Thornisfor. I was rescued by a small group of colonists. One of them was Tomas, a human engineer. He helped me survive. He fixed my broken leg. He taught me their ways. Over time, we grew close." She looked down at Keo, who clung to her hand. "When I learned I was carrying his child, I was afraid. Not of him, but of what this would mean to you. I stayed hidden. But after all these years, I knew Keo deserved to know his home." The queen remained silent for a long moment. Finally, she stepped forward and looked into Keo's eyes. "You have your father's face," she said softly, "but there is something of Ellen in you too." Keo didn't speak. He looked up at the tall woman in shining robes. He didn't understand much, but he could feel something heavy in the air, a mix of sadness and strength. The queen turned to the council. "My daughter has returned. She is blood of my blood. Her son will be treated with care while we decide what comes next." Some council members bowed. Others looked unsure. Ellen and Keo were led to a quiet room in the east wing of the palace. Soft lights glowed on the walls. A table held fresh fruit. There were clothes prepared and a warm bed for the child. Ellen sat by the window, staring at the stars. Keo stood near her. "Is she mad at you?" he asked. Ellen shook her head gently. "No, little one. She's just surprised. I was gone for so long." "Do I belong here?" Keo asked in a small voice. Ellen turned to him and knelt down. "You belong with me, always. This place, it's part of your story, just like Earth is part of mine." That night, the queen stood alone on her balcony. She looked out over the quiet city. Her daughter had returned. The child was not what she expected, but something about him felt important. His presence stirred old memories. The way he had looked at her reminded her of the time Ellen was small and unafraid. The queen touched the pendant around her neck. It was the last thing Ellen had given her before that final journey. In the shadows of the hall, her advisor Saren approached. "You believe it is truly her?" he asked. The queen nodded. "There is no doubt she carries the blood of Varel, and the child, he may carry more than we yet understand." Saren looked thoughtful. "Some will oppose him." "I know," the queen said. "But some will see hope," Saren added. The queen turned and looked up at the stars. "Hope," she whispered. "It has returned." Morning light touched the glass towers of Saravel. The royal banners moved gently in the wind. Inside the palace, the air was calm, but tension had already begun to rise. Word had spread. The lost princess had returned, and she had brought back a child half human. In the council chamber, voices grew louder. 12 council members sat in a circle. Each one was a leader of a different province. Their robes were long, their faces serious, and their opinions were not the same. "This is not just any child," said Lord Bren. "He is part human. We know nothing about what powers he holds. We must send him away. He is of royal blood," answered Lady Wren. "His mother is the queen's daughter. That should be enough." Another elder spoke. "What if his human side brings danger to our world? What if he cannot be trusted?" The queen sat at the head of the chamber. She listened to every word but spoke none yet. Her eyes were fixed on a small pendant in her hand. It once belonged to Elien. At last, she raised her head. "Enough," she said quietly. The room fell silent. "You speak as if the child is a weapon. But he is a boy, 6 years old. He has done nothing wrong. He is not one of us," Bryn said. Queen Alaria stood slowly. "Neither are you, Lord Bryn. Your bloodline comes from the ocean provinces. My ancestors once questioned your kind, and now you sit on my council." Bryn lowered his eyes. The queen continued, "We will not judge a child for what he is born as. He will stay in the palace under protection, and he will be given education. In both our ways and in human history, I want no more debate." The council nodded, though some clearly disagreed. Outside the chamber, Ellen waited. Her silver hair was neatly tied, and her long coat was the color of deep forest. Keo stood beside her, looking round at the walls made of polished stone and crystal. A soft voice called out, "Princess Ellen." She turned and saw an old friend. It was Mar-El, her childhood teacher. He looked older, his beard now gray, but his smile was the same. "You truly returned," Mar-El said, eyes full of emotion. "I never gave up hope." Ellen stepped forward and hugged him. "I miss this place," she said, "but I feared it would not welcome me." Mar-El looked down at the boy. "And this must be your son." Keo smiled. "My name is Keo. Are you a teacher?" Mar-El nodded. "I am. Would you like to learn how to read the stars?" Keo's eyes lit up. Double quotes, "Yes." Mar-El turned to Ellen. "He has your spirit, curious, brave." Ellen's smile faded slightly. "Some in the palace don't want him here. They are afraid," Mar-El said. "But fear often fades with truth." Later that day, Queen Alaria called Ellen to her private chamber. It was quiet there. A round room filled with ancient books, star charts, and soft blue lights. The queen sat by the window. Ellen entered slowly. "You wanted to see me." The queen nodded. "I have questions only you can answer." Ellen took a seat across from her mother. "Ask. What happened after your ship crashed?" Ellen took a breath. "I landed in the forest of Thornus 4. Alone. My leg was broken. I couldn't move. I thought I would die there. But you didn't know." Ellen said, "Tomas found me. He was part of a small colony nearby. He carried me for 2 days to shelter. He treated my wounds. He gave me food, warmth, safety." The queen listened closely. "He was kind." "Yes, kind and honest. He never asked for anything in return, even when he learned I was a Varellan. He didn't treat me as strange. He treated me as a person." The queen looked out the window. "You loved him?" Ellen nodded. Double quotes, "Yes." "And he loved me." Silence filled the space between them. After a moment, the queen asked, "And Kyo?" "He was born 2 years later. Tomas helped deliver him. We raised him with both our stories, human and Varellan. He learned to speak early. He loved machines. He was always asking questions." The queen's voice softened. "I saw something in him, something that felt different." "He is different," Ellen said. "He dreams of places before seeing them. He can touch old tech and wake it. I don't know why." The queen stood. "Our people will fear him, but some will also follow him if what you say is true. He may carry something rare." Ellen's voice grew firm. "I didn't come to place him on a throne. I only want him safe." The queen walked to her daughter and placed a hand on her shoulder. "You were always strong, Ellen, even when you were a child. But now, I see a mother. I see a protector. And I see a future we did not expect." That night, Kyo sat on a balcony. He looked up at the stars, counting them. A servant brought him warm food. "Would you like me to stay?" she asked. "No, thank you," Kyo said politely. "I'm thinking." The servant left. Kyo stared at the moons. He didn't understand everything, but he felt something changing in the air, something big. He whispered a soft wish to the stars. "Please help them understand." The royal palace of Scifi was a place of quiet beauty. Floating lanterns moved across the air like fireflies, and long gardens spread between marble towers. But inside the palace, eyes followed young Kyo wherever he went. Servants whispered. Guards stayed alert. Council members watched from shadows. Kyo noticed it all. He was smart, more than anyone expected for his age. He could read both Varellan symbols and human letters. He asked questions that made even the palace scholars pause. And every night, he climbed to the highest balcony and stared at the stars. For hours. One evening, he was walking through a quiet hallway with his mother, Ellen. "Why do they look at me like I'm strange?" Kyo asked. Ellen bent down beside him. "Because you are something new. Many people fear what they do not understand. But I'm just a boy," he said. Ellen smiled softly. "Yes, you are. But sometimes, just being who you are can make others question their world." Kyo looked ahead. "Then I will show them I'm not a danger." Later that night, the queen invited her daughter and grandson to the royal library. It was a place deep beneath the palace, filled with ancient books, star charts, and tools made of crystal and gold. Few were allowed inside. Ellen stepped into the glowing room with care. Kyo followed close behind, his eyes wide with wonder. "Queen." Alaria stood near a circular table. She placed her hand on a large, silver panel at the center. A soft blue light spread out, revealing a large map of the stars. "This is called the Star Circle," the queen said. "It holds the memory of every system we once explored." Kyo moved closer. "It's beautiful," he whispered. The queen nodded. "This machine has been asleep for many years. We lost the key to unlock it. Until now." She looked down at Kyo. "Try placing your hand on the panel." Ellen hesitated. "Mother, are you sure?" "Yes. Let us see what the stars say." Kyo slowly reached out. His small hand touched the cold silver dot at first. Nothing happened. Then a soft hum filled the room. The star map flickered. The lights grew brighter. A new layer of stars appeared above the table, glowing, spinning, moving. The room was filled with warm, gentle energy. Lines of ancient text floated in the air, shining like rivers of light. Ellen stepped back in shock. Queen Alaria's eyes widened. "This system hasn't activated in over 100 years, she said. Kyo looked up. "I can hear them. Here." "What?" the queen asked. "The stars. They speak in colors and music. They're not just maps. They're memories." A royal scholar named Saren entered the room. He had served the queen for over 50 years. When he saw the glowing map, he fell to his knees. "This is the lost grid," he said. "It holds knowledge from before the war. Some thought it was destroyed." Kyo continued to move his hands. Wherever he touched, the light shifted and responded. He wasn't just activating the system. He was guiding it. The queen watched in silence. For the first time, she understood what her grandson was. He was more than a child. He was a key to something forgotten. Later, Saren met with the queen in her study. He unlocked the ancient code without training, Saren said, and he understood. Yes, the queen replied. His human blood carries something new, something that connects to our old ways. What should we do? We must protect him, and we must prepare. If word of this spreads, others will come, far from the palace. In the darker parts of the city, trouble was already beginning. A man in dark armor stood before a crowd. His name was Drax, once a commander of the Queen's forces, now a bitter exile. He had been waiting for a chance to strike. The royal bloodline has been mixed. Drax said to the crowd, "The throne is weak. The child is not Varellan. He is a threat to our way of life." Some in the crowd nodded. Drax lifted a blade. "I will not let our people fall. I will gather those who still remember our strength. We will return this world to purity." In the palace, Keo was unaware of the growing danger. He was sitting in the gardens with Mar-El, the old teacher, learning about the moons of Saravel. Each moon gives light in its own way. Mar-El said, "One is calm, the other wild, but together they balance the sky." Keo looked thoughtful. "Like humans and Varellans," he said. Mar-El smiled. "Exactly." Keo reached for a stone and touched it. The stone shimmered slightly and gave off a faint hum. Mar-El blinked. "That's a memory stone. It hasn't worked in decades." Keo tilted his head. "It's sad. It remembers a song." "A song?" "Yes. About a river that never stops flowing." Mar-El, lean back. "You're full of surprises, little one." That evening, Ellen sat with her mother once more. "Do you still fear him?" she asked. The queen shook her head. "I fear the world's reaction to him, but he is gentle. He does not wish for power. He only wishes to belong." Ellen sighed. "He misses his father. Where is Tomas now?" "He stayed behind on Thornisfor. He didn't know if we would survive the journey. He told me to go. He said he would find us when it was safe." The queen touched her daughter's hand. "If he comes, he will be welcome. He gave us Keo." That night, Keo stood once more on the highest balcony. The wind played with his hair. He closed his eyes and whispered to the stars, "I'm ready. Show me what comes next." In the northern skies of Saravel, dark ships flew low and silent. Their wings were sharp like blades, and their engines left no sound behind. These were not royal vessels. They belonged to someone long thought gone. Drax, once a commander of the Queen's army, had returned. He stood tall inside the bridge of his main ship, his armor black and worn, his eyes full of fire. Around him were soldiers who followed him without question. Most of them were exiles, old war fighters, and those who hated the changes in the kingdom. "The queen grows weak," Drax said. "She lets her bloodline mix with humans. She opens our gates to outsiders. That child is not a prince. He is a danger to everything we build." A younger warrior stepped forward, but the people still follow her. Many honor the boy. Drax narrowed his eyes. "Then we will remind them what strength looks like. Prepare the army. We march on the capital." Back in Saravel, the sun was bright over the towers, but the queen felt a chill in the wind. She stood on her private balcony, eyes closed, listening to the quiet. Saren, her advisor, stepped beside her. "You feel it too," he said. "Yes," she answered. "Something moves in the dark. We've received news from the border. Villages are empty. Watchtowers silent." The queen opened her eyes. "It is Drax." Saren nodded. "He's been hiding all these years, waiting. Now he sees the child as a reason to strike." The queen looked down at the gardens below, where Keo played with glowing stones. "He blames the boy for our change. But change is not weakness, it is growth." Saren looked worried. "Should we send the child away?" The queen's voice was calm. "No. If he runs, they will say he is afraid. If he stays, they will see his strength." Inside the palace, Ellen was training with royal guards in the practice yard. She moved fast and sharp, her blade cutting through the air. Years on a wild planet had made her stronger. A soldier named Bren watched her with respect. "You still remember the old ways," he said. "I never forgot," Ellen answered. "I just learned new ones." Another soldier ran into the yard. "Princess Ellen, You're needed in the war room." She wiped her brow and followed quickly. The war room was large and filled with glowing maps. Red dots showed Drax's army moving closer. Ellen studied them carefully. "He's coming fast," she said. "Too fast. He's not hiding anymore." The Queen nodded. Double quotes. "He wants the people to see him, to choose fear over unity." Ellen looked at her mother. "Let me fight." "You will," the Queen said, "but not alone." That evening, as the palace prepared for defense, a small ship approached from orbit. It carried dust from many stars. Its outer shell was scratched and patched, but inside, one man stood tall, holding hope in his heart. Tomas had come. When he landed, guards approached with raised weapons. "I am Tomas of Earth," he said calmly. "I've come for my son." A message reached Ellen within minutes. She rushed to the landing bay. Heart pounding. Tomas turned and saw her. He smiled. "I found you," he said. She ran into his arms, and for a long moment, nothing else mattered. Kio arrived soon after, guided by Morel. When he saw his father, his eyes lit up. "Papa." Tomas bent down and lifted him up. "You've grown," he said, voice thick with emotion. Kio held him tightly. "I miss you every day." "I miss you too, little star." The Queen stood nearby, watching silently. After a while, she stepped forward. "You're Tomas." He turned and bowed slightly. "Yes, Your Majesty. I am only a man, but I love your daughter and our child." The Queen nodded. Double quotes. "And will you fight to protect them?" "With all that I am," Tomas said. That night, the Queen called a meeting with the full council. She stood beside Ellen, Tomas, and Kio. "The enemy is close," she said, "but we will not bend. We will not break. This child, born of two worlds, is not our weakness. He is our hope." Some council members still looked unsure, but they said nothing. In the training halls, weapons were handed out, shields were charged, defense lines were drawn. The people of Saravel prepared not just for a battle but for a test of their future. Tomas worked with engineers to strengthen the shield walls. He shared human designs for traps and early alarms. Ellen trained new warriors, teaching them how to move fast and strike smart. And Kio, quiet but aware, walked the old halls with Morel. "I feel something," Kio said. "A shadow, cold and angry." Morel nodded. "Then we must be the light." On the third night, a red flare rose in the northern sky. Drax had arrived. His ships landed just beyond the hills. His soldiers wore armor without colors, their eyes cold and empty. In the palace, alarms rang. Queen Alaria stood in her armor. It was old, from the days of her youth, polished and bright. She looked at her daughter. "This is your home now. Will you defend it?" Ellen gripped her blade. "Yes." She looked at Tomas. Together, Kio stood beside them. "I'm not afraid," he said. The Queen placed a hand on his shoulder. "You are stronger than you know." Outside the gates, Drax stepped forward. He raised a speaker and shouted toward the palace, "Give me the child. Deny the false bloodline, and I will leave your city untouched." Inside, the Queen answered without fear, "We give you nothing. This is our family, and we will stand." Drax laughed. "Then I will take it by force." The soldiers of Saravel stood tall on the walls. The sky began to fill with the sound of engines. The battle for the future had begun. The sun had not yet risen over Saravel, but the palace grounds were filled with movement. Soldiers marched across the stone paths. Supplies were carried into watchtowers. Weapons were sharpened. Shields were charged. Inside the palace war hall, Queen Alaria stood with her council. A large star map hovered in the air. Red lights marked the enemy forces spread across the northern hills. Drax has brought 5 legions. Saren said, "He controls old battle droids and mountain raiders. They outnumber us 2-1. Ellen stepped forward. "Numbers are not everything. If we fight smart, we hold the advantage inside the city walls." Tomas stood beside her, pointing to the defense lines he had helped build. "I've added human barrier tech around the east and west gates. If Drax sends his machines, we'll trap them in choke points. His speed will mean nothing in tight space." The Queen looked at both of them. "Good, But Drax will not rely only on brute force. He wants to scare us, to break our spirit before he breaks our walls. Mar-El entered the hall, guiding young Kyo by the hand. The child's face was calm, but his eyes showed focus. He stepped in front of the star map and stared at it slowly. He raised his hand and touched a point between the enemy markers. "There's an old tunnel here," Kyo said. "Beneath the stone hills, it leads to the high ridge behind the city." Saren looked shocked. "That tunnel is not on any current map." "How do you know this?" "I saw it," Kyo replied. "In a dream." The queen studied him closely. "Could Drax use it to attack from behind?" Kyo nodded. "If he finds it." The queen turned to her guards. "Seal the tunnel. Post silent watchers above it." Orders were sent. Runners moved quickly. The council continued to plan later. On the palace balcony, Tomas and Ellen stood together. The sky was pale orange, the wind quiet. Ellen leaned on the railing. "I never thought I would stand here again, preparing to fight for this place." Tomas looked out at the far hills. "I never thought I'd be in an alien city, preparing to fight beside a queen." Ellen smiled, though her face stayed serious. "You were always strong. That's what saved me when I crashed. You didn't panic. You stayed calm. You found me. You stayed even when I told you it was dangerous." Tomas touched her hand. "You were worth the risk. And Kyo was the gift I never knew I needed." Behind them, Kyo arrived quietly. "Mother, Father, I want to help." "You already are," Ellen said. Kyo looked at the sky. "Something is coming. I can feel it." That night, the queen called her people to the great hall. Hundreds stood beneath the high ceiling. Warriors, builders, healers, farmers, students. All eyes turned to the royal family. Queen Ilaria stepped forward in full armor. Her voice echoed in the hall. "Some of you fear what is coming. That is natural. But we are not weak. We are Varellan, and now we stand with friends beside us. We stand with new blood, not against it." She raised her hand toward Ellen, Tomas, and Kyo. "This family is not a threat. They are a promise. A promise that we can be more than what we were." The people bowed their heads. The queen spoke again. "Tomorrow, we fight, not because we love war, but because we will not kneel to those who bring fear. We fight for each other, for every child, for every elder, for every voice that wishes to be heard." A sound of agreement filled the hall. Ellen stepped up next. "My name is Ellen. I left this world long ago. I was lost, but I found something out there. I found love. And I found a new strength. I did not return to take power. I returned to protect what I love, this city, this family, you." She looked across the crowd, her eyes steady. "I will stand on the front lines. I will not run." Tomas stood beside her. "I'm not one of you. I come from Earth. But your daughter saved my life. Your people gave my son a home. Now I fight not as an outsider, but as a father, a partner, a friend." Mar-El stood with Kyo, near the center. "He may be small," Mar-El said, "but I have seen what he can do. His mind touches ancient machines. His heart feels what we cannot, and his soul is pure." Kyo looked up at the crowd. "I want peace," he said clearly. "But if peace must be protected, then I will not hide." The crowd grew silent. Then slowly, one by one, hands raised in salute, the people of Saravel had made their choice. The next day, dawn came with a red sky. Scouts returned from the hills. Drax's army was moving forward. Battle droids rolled through valleys. Heavy walkers crushed the old stone roads. Riders rode fast, dust rising behind them like smoke. In the palace, final checks were made. The east gate was locked and shielded. The west gate had traps hidden under sand and rock. Archers filled the high walls. Energy cannons were charged and ready. Tomas stood near the engineers. "Watch for signal flares. Fire only when the front lines break." Ellen stood on the main wall with a team of warriors. Her blade was sharp, her armor polished. Kyo stood with Mar-El inside the controlled chamber below the palace. Ancient systems were waking again, just like before. Kyo had touched the old panels and lights had returned. Symbols glowed, and deep humming filled the floor. Outside the walls, the ground shook. Drax had arrived. He stood at the front of his army, raising a black flag. Behind him, the hills were covered in dark metal and smoke. Inside the palace, Queen Ilaria lifted her head. "This is our moment," she said. "We did not fall today." Trumpets sounded. The gates held firm. The sky darkened. War was here. The ground shook as Drax's army reached the outer edge of Saravel. His war machines stood tall like metal beasts, dark and smoking. Soldiers in black armor marched in rows, silent but ready. From the palace towers, Ellen watched them come. She stood in full battle gear, her face calm, her eyes sharp. Beside her stood Tomas, holding a rifle and watching every move outside the wall. "They are spreading out," Tomas said. "Trying to cover all our gates." Ellen nodded. "We hold them at the front. The walls are strong, and the tunnels are sealed." Inside the palace, Queen Ilaria led her guards to the command center. From there, she could speak to every tower and every gate. "Drax wants us to panic," she told her soldiers. "He expects weakness. Show him strength." From below the palace, deep inside the old chamber, Keo placed his hand on the glowing console. The walls lit up with soft blue light. Ancient Varellan energy lines hummed. "I'm ready," Keo said to Mar-El. "The old machines are listening now." Outside, Drax raised his hand. With a sharp motion, he gave the order to attack. A loud horn sounded across the field. The first wave of battle began. Metal beasts charged toward the east gate. The earth shook with every step. As they neared the walls, hidden traps triggered. The ground opened, swallowing the lead machines in bursts of fire. Varellan archers fired. From the towers, arrows with energy tips struck metal and armor. Tomas aimed his weapon carefully, firing at the droids moving on the flanks. One by one, they fell, but Drax's army kept coming. At the west gate, rolling tanks fired heavy blasts. The shield walls held, but cracks began to show. Ellen climbed down the wall to lead a squad. She met the first group of invaders near the broken stone path. With her sword glowing, she moved quickly and struck with precision. She was fast, not just from her training, but from the fire in her heart. She fought for her home, for her mother, and for the future of her son. Tomas joined her moments later, using his rifle to cover her left side. "We hold the gate," he shouted. Together, Ellen answered. More enemies came. Raiders on hoverbikes zoomed around the wall, trying to reach the inner roads. But they were met by Queen Ilaria's royal guard, who fought with skill and discipline. In the sky, dark drones began to appear. Mar-El called down to the chamber. "Keo, now is the time. Wake the old towers." Keo closed his eyes and focused. His hand moved across the symbols. One by one, ancient defense towers along the city's edges came to life. Their tips opened, revealing glowing cores. Blue beams of light shot upward, striking the drones with perfect aim. The sky lit up with silent fire. The people of Saravel began to cheer. But the fight was not over. Drax himself moved toward the north ridge. His armor was thick, black, and marked with red. His eyes burned with power. He held a heavy blade that hummed with dark energy. "I will take the city myself," he growled. With a group of elite soldiers, he pushed through the narrow path leading to the high wall. There, he found resistance from Ilaria herself. "You came far," she said as they met. "Far enough to end this," Drax replied. Their blades met with a loud clash. Sparks flew. Ilaria was graceful and fast. Drax was brutal and heavy. The duel began. On the east side, Ellen's group had pushed the attackers back. She paused to catch her breath. Tomas pointed to the far hills. "They're bringing a new machine, bigger than the rest." It was a siege engine taller than the wall, with spinning drills and rocket launchers. "We can't stop that with arrows," Ellen said. Keo's voice came through the comms. "Mother, I see it." "Keo, what can you do?" "There's a storm core buried beneath the city. It's old, but if I unlock it, it can create a blast strong enough to stop the machine." "Can you control it?" "I can try." Mar-El looked at the boy. "This is dangerous." Keo looked at her. "Brave and clear. It's needed." Keo began the activation. His small hands moved quickly over the symbols. The chamber shook, lights flashed, ancient voices whispered in the air. Then the earth began to pulse, above. The massive siege engine neared the wall. Soldiers screamed, ready to run. Then a burst of pure light exploded from the stone beneath. A wave of energy rose like a dome and struck the machine. It froze, lifted off the ground, and shattered into burning pieces. The invaders paused. Fear filled their faces. Queen Alaria and Drax were still locked in combat. She fought with fire. He struck with rage. You rule with fear, Alaria said. But fear ends today. With a final strike, she broke through his defense. Her blade cut deep into his shoulder. Drax staggered. He raised his weapon one last time. But an arrow struck him from above. Ellen had climbed to the tower and fired. The final shot. It struck true. Drax fell. Silence came over the battlefield. Then, slowly, the enemy began to retreat. The people of Saravel stood together. The gates were still standing. The queen raised her hand. We are still here. Cheers filled the city. Tomas found Ellen and embraced her. Kyo ran from the chamber, jumping into their arms. You did it, Tomas said. We did it, Ellen answered. Above them, the first light of morning broke through the clouds. The city had survived. The sun rose over the shining towers of Saravel. Warm light touched the broken stones, the silent battlefields, and the tired faces of those who had survived. Birds returned to the sky. Wind moved gently across the flags on the palace walls. Inside the great hall, Queen Alaria stood at the high window. Her silver armor was scratched, her eyes tired, but her heart was calm. For the first time in many years, there was peace. Behind her, Ellen entered with Kyo beside her. Tomas followed quietly, holding a small bundle of cloth, a gift from the city's people. Mother, Ellen said. Alaria turned and smiled. You look like your father when he stood after battle. Strong, but peaceful. Ellen stepped forward and embraced her. It was the first time they had hugged without fear, without pain, and without the weight of exile between them. Kyo looked around the tall room. Is this really where you grew up, Mama? Ellen knelt and touched his cheek. Yes, I used to run through these halls as a girl. Just like you run through the ship. Queen Alaria smiled and knelt beside her grandson. You are welcome here, Kyo. This is your home to now. Kyo looked unsure. But I'm half human. The queen nodded. That makes you both strong and kind. You carry two worlds in your heart, and today, both worlds help save the city. Tomas stepped forward and handed the gift to Kyo. It's from the city's people. They made it during the night. Kyo opened the cloth. Inside was a small silver crest, shaped like the royal tree of Saravel, but in the middle was a human star. It's beautiful, Kyo whispered. It is yours, the queen said. You are the bridge between us and Earth. The people already call you the child of the two skies. Guards entered with scrolls and reports. The city needed repairs. Homes were damaged. Food was short, but the people were working together. Varellans and humans who had stayed behind were helping side by side. Ellen looked at Tomas. We should visit the outer districts, see what the people need. I agree, he said. But first, you need rest, Ellen smiled. After one more task, she walked with her mother to the old chamber beneath the palace, the same place where Kyo had awakened the storm core. The light still glowed softly on the walls. I remember this place, Ellen said. I came here once with Father. He said this was the heart of our people. Alaria placed her hand on the wall. The console lit up. You are ready, Ellen. The time has come. Ellen looked surprised. You want me to take your place? Not yet, the queen replied. But soon. The people trust you. They saw you lead. They saw your heart, and they saw your son. You will be a better queen than I ever was. Ellen placed her hand beside her mother's. I will serve with honor. Above the city, the flags were changed. One side held the royal tree. The other side showed the new crest, a silver star and green leaf together. Peace meetings began soon after. Varellan leaders came from other cities. Human ambassadors arrived from nearby colonies. Even some of Drax's old commanders came to kneel and offer peace. Ellen sat at the head of the round table, her mother beside her. "We don't need more walls," she said. "We need bridges. We need trade, education, and healing." Tomas helped organize supply ships from Earth. Doctors, builders, and teachers began arriving. Some Varellans joined them. Eager to learn and share their ways, Keo made friends quickly. His days were filled with laughter and stories. He was often seen teaching Varellan children how to play Earth games and learning how to glide small sky kites that danced on the straw veil wind. One afternoon, Keo stood by the garden pond behind the palace. He looked up and saw his mother and father walking hand in hand. They looked happy, calm, like the storm was finally over. He turned and saw Queen Alaria watching from a distance. "Grandmother," he said. She walked toward him slowly. "You remind me of your mother when she was your age, curious and brave." Keo looked at the pond. "Will there be more battles? Maybe. But now, we know how to stop them, with words, with kindness." He nodded slowly. "Can I train with the guards someday?" The queen smiled. "Yes, but first, you must finish your studies." "I will." As weeks passed, Saravel changed. The wounds of war healed little by little. People planted gardens where battle machines had stood. Children's voices replaced the sound of weapons. Music returned to the streets. And in the heart of it all stood a family, a queen who found her daughter, a daughter who found her home, and a boy who belonged to both stars and soil. One night, during the Festival of Light, the palace lights were dimmed and candles were lit across the city. Ellen stepped onto the balcony to speak to the crowd gathered in the square. "My name is Ellen, daughter of Saravel. Years ago, I left this place. I thought I would never return. But now I see, no matter where we go, our hearts know where we belong." She raised her hand. "This city stands because of unity, because of courage, because we stood together not as Varellans or humans, but as one people." The crowd cheered. Firelights filled the sky. Keo leaned on the balcony rail and smiled. At his mother, Tomas placed a hand on his shoulder. "Do you think she'll be queen soon?" Keo asked. Tomas laughed. "She already is, in the hearts of the people." As the lights danced above, Saravel glowed not just from flame and stone, but from hope. And far beyond the stars, other worlds watched. They had seen the war. They had seen the peace. And they whispered the name of the small child who carried the light of Teresa's, the child of the lost daughter, the child of earth and sky, the child who would one day lead them all.